I will be talking today about the madness skeptical scenario in the first meditation of Descartes' meditations, and also tying it somewhat with the medical theories of the time. I would like to point out that I'm not really a specialist in the medical theories, but uh, there is something interesting in the madness scenario, so let's go on there. Okay, so here is the plan that I have for today. I will start by presenting the madness scenario in the first meditation, after which I will discuss madness as a physiological defect for Descartes. And then in the third part, I will discuss what is the point of having the madness discussion, a madness scenario in the skeptical meditations. Okay, so the madness scenario in the meditations takes place between two important narrative plot points: the unreliability of particle sense perception and the dreaming scenario. And like it is often presented, Descartes' meditator does not find all of sensory perception unreliable just because some sensory perception is unreliable. How the text goes, and I quote, "Yet although the senses occasionally deceive us with respect to objects that are very small or in the distance, there are many other beliefs about which doubt is quite impossible, even though they are derived from the senses, for example, that I am here, sitting by the fire, wearing a winter dressing gown, holding this piece of paper in my hands, and so on. Again, how could it be denied that these hands or this whole body are mine?" So here the meditator presents the situation so that even if there are these sort of called occasional sensory errors, they have to be compared against the background of normal optimal perception, and basically questions there how could these sort of optimal cases be doubted. And so the meditator then comes up with a suggestion that perhaps I were to liken myself to madmen whose brains are so damaged by the persistent vapors of melancholia that they firmly maintain that they are kings when they are paupers, or say they are dressed in purple when they are naked, or that their heads are made of earthenware, or that they are pumpkins or made of glass. But such people are insane, amentes, and I would be thought equally mad, demens, if I took anything from them as a model for myself. So here the meditator suggests, what about if I considered myself to be mad? Would this allow me to doubt these sort of optimal case perceptions? And well, the madness, as we can see, is very quickly pushed aside and not taken as a very convincing scenario. Later on, I will go on for the reasons why this is the case. But for now, now I want to discuss what is happening in the passage, how the madness for Descartes seems to be working here. So very often many commentators have made the point that the reason why madness is put aside so quickly in the meditations inquiry is to emphasize the rationality of the meditator, and at the same time emphasize the rationality of the meditations project itself. So because this is about a rational inquiry, we should put away all these kind of possibilities of us being mad. Like a mad person would not be able to do the rational capabilities. So basically the judgment is that the mad people that the meditation talks about have a problem with their reasoning capabilities, and that's why they should not be taken as a model or a skeptical possibility. For example, Harry Frankfurt has been pushing on this 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 reading, followed by, for example, Gary Hatfield. I actually call this reading Foucaultian because Foucault also very famously presents the Descartes' madness scenario this way in one of his texts on the history of madness. However, if we look at the text itself, and we also compare it to other texts that Descartes has written on madness, for example, let's go with, for example, in the Optics, Descartes writes, madmen and those who are asleep often see or think they see various objects which are nevertheless not before their eyes, because certain vapors disturb their brain, arrange those of its parts normally engaged in vision, exactly as they would be if these objects were present. And in The Search for the Truth by the Natural Light, which is a dialogue, it reads, melancholic individuals who think themselves to be vases will swear what they see and touch is just as they imagine it to be. To be sure, a good man would be indignant if you told him that his beliefs cannot have any more rational basis than theirs, since he relies, like them, on what the senses and imagination represent to him. So if we look at these texts, what Descartes has written on madness, it becomes very clear that the mad people in Descartes' view don't have a problem with their reasoning capabilities. Instead, they have a problem, there's a sort of like a physiological deficiency with the senses and imagination. There's something that is blocking. There is some sort of like a causal mechanical problem that is blocking the senses and imagination to work as they should, which is why the mad people have these illusions of their head being a vase and so on. And so basically it seems that the madness, the description of madness in the first meditation and the search follows the theory of unbalanced bodily fluids that was still popular in the medical practice of the early 1600s, which was based on the doctrine of four essential humors: yellow bile, black bile, blood, and phlegm. And the imbalance of these humors causes medical illness. This theory was originally, this doctrine was originally purported by Hippocrates and later on taken on by Galen. And as we saw yesterday, Galen is one of the main influences for medieval medical doctrines and still has a large influence in the 1600s. And even though this theory was already challenged by Andres Vesalius and William Harvey, it still was quite popular by the time Descartes wrote the Meditations. So basically, the first meditation description seems to put it so that the meditator assigns the madman's state to be due to an unbalanced amount of melancholy, causing physiological damage to the brain. So the madmen do not think that their head is a vase because they are irrational, but because of an unbalanced distribution of vapors in their brains. Their faulty judgment is to do with defective causal capacities, which corrupt cognitive mechanisms and can introduce systematic error in some people's beliefs. Anyway, I also would like to point out here that Descartes himself did not really assign the humor theory or the imbalance of fluids, being apparently more influenced by Harvey's take on the blood circulation. It's most likely the reason why this humor theory is mentioned in the Meditations is because of its popularity, that it would be familiar for most readers of the Meditations. Actually, I think there's an anecdotal quote from Descartes from when he was lying on his deathbed in Stockholm, and a local doctor came to perform bloodletting, and Descartes is quoted to have said, "Please, gentlemen, spare French blood," or something to that effect. But yeah, so Descartes himself did not assign to this theory, but he mentions it clearly in the Meditations when it comes to madness. So the bad people have a problem in their cognitive faculties. However, as we saw, the madness it clearly fails to create a sufficient reason for that. And the meditator discards it quickly. And the reason why this is clearly by my reading, it's because to make systematic doubt of the senses possible, the meditator needs to be convinced that the senses failing to perceive reality in the normal course of events might be more typical than she originally considered. However, madness is still an exceptional case. It is a physiological impairment. And as such, madness is not a normal or a natural state, and it implies a background of physically defectless minds. Thus, the meditator finds the madness at this point unconvincing as a systematic scenario. Now, of course, this question then raises, what is the madness scenario doing in the meditations if it is put aside so quickly and it doesn't work as a skeptical scenario? What is it just wasting space there, or what is it doing there? And basically, the way I see it is that in order to succeed in the systematic sensory doubt, the meditator needs to make two rather difficult transitions. And of course, these transitions are quite closely tied together. So the first transition is to move from the natural doubt of the occasional sense deception to the unnatural doubt of the senses systematically being in error. And the second transition is to change her thinking about the world from the common sense attitude, reality being as it is perceived, to the metaphysically driven philosophical attitude of the Cartesian suspension of judgment. The perception of reality and reality as it is might be cut off from each other. And of course, part of this is successful by the dreaming scenario. So what the madness does is sort of like pave the way for the dreaming scenario, sort of like suggest that, okay, there might be this way, but this doesn't really work. But how about then something more natural, like a dreaming scenario? So basically, the way I read it, the madness scenario works as an intermediary between the natural doubts of particular sense perceptions and the unnatural doubt of the dreaming scenario, helping out with these two transitions. So basically, that's what I wanted to say today. I hope maybe people have questions about this reading, and we could discuss more about the madness and like its medical reasons and physiological reasons for Descartes. So thank you.